I wake to the sound of the vox reciting the emperor's prayer, but the words are wrong. They come thin and fluted, a priest's voice remade by static. Each syllable is a nail. Light of man, it says, and then a new word slips in like oil under a door, many-limned. I lie very still on my pallet and count the breaths between those alien syllables, as if numbering them could make them ordinary. My ribs rise like a flight of chapel steps. My breath is incense burned down to ash. The vox repeats the prayer. It is the same, and not the same. The machine breathes. When the power returns in the mornings, the entire hab block inhales together, lumen coils click, servos stir, the water ribs judder, and for a heartbeat we are once again the hive we were before banners changed, before the old proclamations were scraped down and the new ones pasted over the pale scabs of paint. In that first glow I can pretend the darkness of night was a penance granted to toughen us, nothing more. I whisper the catechisms I learned in the administratum annex, hands folded to keep them from trembling, and I thank him for the order of machines. Order, I tell myself, is half of faith. Outside my door, in the corridor that sinks like a ship's spine through our stacked lives, the ward beads click against one another in the dim draught. They still smell of blessed oil from a long-ago visit by an itinerant priest, a visit we measured in gratitude and ration tokens. The beads warded thieves once. Now they ward thoughts. I touch them when I step out, make the sign across my chest with 2 fingers, and meet the eyes that watch me. We all know one another. There is no solitude in a hive, only thinner and thicker grades of company. But we are learning new ways of knowing. Who looks down? Who looks too long? Who arrives at the masses early, and who lingers in the corridors, measuring. Always measuring. I wear my office coat a thing of grey, with a single stitched aquila whose threads have frayed down to something like a thorned wing, and I carry the brass case that holds my ledger books. I walk to the vox shrine because that is what I did before. And a man must keep some rail to hold in a storm. The vox shrine is where the hall widens. It was once a niche of order. An old machine face set in red enamel, a votive rack beneath, a bin of sand for stub incense, and a little chain to keep the curious children from fingering the dials. I used to check the readings here each hour, mark the traffic of decrees and notices, water allotments, maintenance schedules, fines, my pen skimming the paper as if a skater on a frozen pond, clean and certain. The machine spoke only truth then. Not truth like a man, sly and dressed, but truth like stone, the emperor's truth, numbers and ratios, allotment and need. Now there are sigils beneath the enamel, scorings in the metal where a knife traced hooks I cannot reconcile with geometry. The votive rack is laden with candles of grey tallow that sweat a smell I try not to name. The incense is powdered with something gritty and sweet, and it leaves a residue on my teeth. The chain is gone. It rusted or was unwound by patient fingers. Above the machine face hangs a banner I do not like to see, a cloth worked in crimson thread, a double-headed shape as before. But the faces are too long, and where the halves meet there is a mouth that has no teeth. The mouth is a seam of darkness stitched open. Even so, the machine speaks, it breathes. It is regular. I take comfort in that. All citizens of Hive Rasen, the vox croons. Report for sewing. That is the word it uses now for labor shift. Sewing. The first time I heard it, I felt a hot rush of humiliation, as if I had mispronounced a prayer in a crowded chapel. Sewing begins at second bell. The bells are deeper now. They vibrate in the floor. Bring your hands. Bring your names. Names. That is my work. I keep names and numbers to follow them. It is not an unholy craft to keep what is already yours. Even their officers require tallies. Even they must know how many lamps oil a corridor, how many mouths swallow water, how many arms lift. If we are occupied, and we are, to say otherwise is to be childish. We may continue to survive from within the small circles of our duty. That is what I tell the others when they ask me if it is permitted to sign their new forms. I tell them, ink is not betrayal. I tell them, a ledger does not love, but it does not lie. They do not believe me, or they do, depending on how long they have been hungry. I arrive at the shrine with my case. The priest who tended it has vanished into the quiet that swallows names after curfew. A new attendant stands where he stood. She wears a wrap of black cloth under a cuirass that looks like it has been scraped down with ash and then painted with icons of wolves. Her hair has been shaved on one side to reveal an ear thread of thin bells, which mark each movement with a sound you feel in your teeth. She nods at me, and I nod back. She knows my duty. I know hers. Her face is paintless. Her eyes, the flat brown of earth. Clerk, she says. She does not use my name. Attendant, I say, and open the case. The clasps bite my fingers. The metal is always cold now. It was not always before. I take out the daybook, ink bottle, nib. I set them in order as if laying out a meal. The attendant watches without impatience. The vox hums a low E or something like it, a tone that polishes the bones. Behind that tone, there is another, a vibration I cannot find with my ear, but my breath knows, because I have to slow it, or it falls into step with the machine. I write the first line. Date. As we keep dates now. The third day of sowing, under the black sun that never clears its smoke. Time, following the bell we share with the maintenance crews. Location. Hab column 17, Shrine Niche, Vox Unit 0813. Attendant present, 1. Clerk present, 1. Petitioners, none yet. When the people come, they come in 2s and 3s, as if a single person alone is too delicate a thing to place before a machine that eats words. They bring their hands as they were instructed, palms out, lines blackened by their work. Some hold their fingers too rigidly, as if a soldier had told them to stand to. Some tuck one thumb, ashamed of a scar. All of them bring their names in their mouths, ready to speak them when I ask. Ready to be recorded. We used to stamp ration chits. That is what this place was for. An honest labor. Oil the wheels that grind grain. Now my book holds 2 columns, as it held before. One for the name, one for the count. I add a third. A notation the attendant requires an icon, a little dash that means suitable, a dot for fragile, a curve for song. I do not know what they use the notation for, and I do not ask. I tell myself this is humility. I tell myself humility is a virtue. The people do not look at the third column, though some of them glance at my hand as I draw the little marks and then away again, as if the mark were a wound not to be examined. When there is a gap in the line, I clean the nib. I tweak the dial on the vox so that the hum purifies, or so I tell myself. The shrine smells of tallow and metal breath. Behind the machine face, things tick. It is soothing. I am an instrument of order. That is the sentence I repeat when my hand shakes. I am an instrument of order. If I keep the book, I keep the world. Numbers are a house that no wind can pull down. I tell myself that. And the bell in the attendant's ear thread answers with a single tremor, as if I had made a vow it recognized. At second bell, the new priest arrives. He does not wear the cloth of our old chapel. He wears a coat cut from something flexible and uncertain, polished until it shows smears of reflected flame. His mouth is thin and generous, like a cruel man's purse. He carries a censer on a length of chain that sputters sparks rather than smoke. The scent it leaves in the air is not incense, or not the incense I know. It is more like old varnish, like the inside of a confessional cubicle warmed by bodies who prayed hard. Beloved, he says, and the machine harmonizes to his voice with a sigh. Beloved, hear the prayer. We have been instructed to attend the morning prayer. Attendance is not compulsory. It is merely recorded. A thing that is recorded becomes a habit. A habit becomes necessary. I have written these steps in my book to remind myself that the world is a chain of small changes, each link modest and innocent. The priest lifts the censer and begins to sway. He recites the emperor's prayer with the words slightly altered, like a song played on an instrument with an extra string. Light of man, many-limbed, whose face is the sum of faces, receive our breath. We will make of it a hymn. I move my lips with the words I know, and I fix my eyes on the section of the wall where the old paint still shows through. The paint shows the curve of the Aquila's wing. The curve is a comfort. The priest's voice warms, like a furnace becoming efficient, and the vox takes his phrases and repeats them with a breath's delay, as if the machine were his acolyte. I do not look at the people around me, not much. I do not want to see who murmurs along and who remains stone still, and I do not want to see who watches others as if counting. But in the corner of my eye I see a child. She cannot be more than 8. Press her ear to the grill and close her eyes. A little smile on her mouth, as if the machine speaks to her in something like a lullaby. Her mother pulls her away, gently, gently, as if the grill is hot. The child's palm leaves a print, like a blurred star in the dust. After the prayer, the priest speaks a series of announcements, each one punctuated by the bells in the attendant's ear. Work parties to the lower foundries. Water allotments adjusted upward if the rain capture holds. A curfew tightened because a set of wards were found broken. The words are reasonable. The list is the same as the lists I read years ago, though the nouns are new and the places have been renamed to honor deeds I did not witness. He concludes with a blessing. We bow our heads. The machine's hum thickens and then thins. There is a slice of silence that reveals the volume of our breath. We are all animals together in that quiet. It is unbearably intimate. To know my lungs are working in the same rhythm as my neighbor's lungs. The priest smiles as if he hears it too. His hand rests on the machine face with a lover's deliberation, as if he and the shrine are negotiating a secret between them. I return to my book. Names. Numbers. The third mark. A woman from column 19 who has never come to the shrine before, her knuckles white around the handle of a woven basket. A man whose belt holds a tool for which I do not know the name. A pair of brothers whose hair is cut with the same care. I ask nothing more than what I must. I look at their faces only long enough to be certain I have spelled them correctly because I respect names. Ink is not betrayal. A ledger does not love, but it does not lie. At midday, the shift whistles rise like a flock of iron birds and scatter into distance. The crowd thins. The attendant leans her shoulder to the frame of the niche and picks at the seam of her glove with patient fingers. She watches the corridor without mood. My hand cramps. I flex it under the table until the ache recedes like a tide. The vox, now that no one stands within arm's length of it, lowers its voice to a whisper too faint for ears that are not mine. I could be mistaken. I could be hearing the memory of its voice. But I think I am not certain. But I think it repeats a word that is not our word for beloved. I hear something like be limned, the priest's new term, sanding itself down to a whisper. Or perhaps it is my blood's pulse. I am not a student of sound. The day closes itself like a book. The people's faces become pages. I cannot reread no matter how I try, and I am left with only the weight of them in my hand, where I wrote their names. When the last of them drifts away, I sand the daybook and set it aside to dry. The priest has gone. The attendant lingers, as if she is a hinge that must cool before it can be closed. I clean the nib and cap the ink. I close the case. I raise my eyes to the banner with the knot mouth as I always do, to remind myself that I can look at the thing and not fear it. This is a trick I learned as a child. Look at the darkness until it becomes wallpaper. It works, but only in daylight. Clerk, the attendant says. Attendant, I answer. She inclines her head, a courtesy from one craft to another. The bells at her ear whisper once. Bring your hands, bring your name, she says, almost kindly, flattening their words into something that sounds nearly like ours. A spoon shaving crust from a burnt loaf. You keep good tallies. "It is my devotion," I say. "It is the truth and not the truth." She does not smile. Devotion keeps people alive. She tilts her head to listen to something in the corridor, something I cannot hear, until it changes shape. I do not ask what she means. I am a clerk. I do not receive revelations. When I am tempted to think too widely, I place another thought over that one, like a heavy book on a paper that wants to curl. I carry my case home in the dark soft of the second dusk, when the smoke has settled into a suffocating comfort. The ward beads click when I pass under them. The neighbors' doors are closed. Light sleeps under their thresholds like pets. I unlock my door with the quiet hands of a man doing something shameful and ordinary. Inside, I set the case on the table, touch the little aquila at my collar, and whisper the night prayer that begins with thanks for labor. The vox in my wall has no shrine. It is a domestic box, a square mouth. It clicks as if clearing its throat. I have heard it give curfew notices, once an evacuation order that came too late to be anything but a rumor, twice a recitation of a hymn that made mistakes where a child would not. Tonight it says nothing at first. The silence sits down beside me. The silence is heavier than a man. The silence makes the floor creak. When the voice comes, it is smaller than at the shrine. It comes through the wire like a tired man climbing stairs. "Clerk," it whispers. "Bring your hands. Bring your name." It pauses, then adds, with the hesitancy of someone trying the shape of a word for the first time, "Beloved." I do not answer. I sit with my hands palm down on the table. My fingers smell of ink and tallow. I think of the child pressing her ear to the grill and smiling. I think of the banner sowing darkness to itself. I think of the new priest's mouth making the old prayers. I tell myself that tomorrow I will report the alteration of language to the maintenance officers, because someone must keep the lexicons precise. I tell myself that surviving is an act of loyalty. I repeat that sentence 3 times, slow, like a man counting coins. The vox breathes. It sinks with me. It becomes my breath. For a while, that is enough to let me sleep. In the final seconds before I drift, the machine speaks again, very softly, as if leaning close so that only I will hear. "If you keep them," it says, "they are yours." I wake to the sound of the vox reciting the emperor's prayer, and the words are wrong, but by then I have learned how to listen without hearing. I am, after all, an instrument of order, and instruments are played. I have learned to recognize the sound of a changed prayer before I hear the words. It begins with air. The vox draws a longer breath, as if filling itself with thought, and the silence bends just slightly around it. I feel that curve now, before the morning bells. I do not move. The city has not yet remembered to be alive. The lumen coils are dark. The pipes mutter as if dreaming. Outside my window, the smog burns a soft inner red, like the light that filters through eyelids. For a moment I imagine that the entire hive still sleeps and that I am alone. That there are no banners, no priests, no eyes. The thought is tender as sin. Then the vox exhales. The voice is the same one from the shrine, measured, deliberate, patient as a machine's pulse, but now it whispers directly into the room. It speaks the opening lines of the emperor's prayer again, though it has grafted new syllables where the old ones were worn. "Light of man," it says, "many-faced mirror of flesh, receive us as we are remade." There are other noises beneath the voice, small hisses, almost laughter, but I tell myself they are the echo of the pipes, the hush of water descending through rusted lungs. I cross myself with careful fingers. "The emperor protects," I murmur. The vox hums back as though it heard. At the shrine, the banners have multiplied. Each day, the cloths grow heavier with stitched iconography. Great spirals of thread that meet and knot in the center, like veins converging upon a heart. I can no longer see the old red enamel of the machine face beneath its new tracery. It looks alive, as if breathing behind gauze. Attendance at morning mass is larger now. The new priest has a gift for command. He does not shout, he invites. His voice moves through the room like a brush dipped in oil, leaving everything darker and more luminous than before. The first time he called me brother, I felt the warmth of that word for hours, though I knew he did not mean fraternity as the Emperor taught it. "Brother," he says to me this morning, placing his palm against the machine, "you understand the importance of record. The ledger is a temple, the tally, a hymn." I bow my head, not trusting my mouth. He continues, "We are learning a new liturgy of numbers. The body must change to meet the spirit, and the spirit must learn to count itself in other ways." The crowd murmurs assent. A mother and her child, the same from yesterday, stand near the back. The child is still smiling. I think she likes the sound of the new words, the way they roll like marbles in her mouth. "Children are closer to the Emperor," they say. Perhaps she hears what we cannot. The priest begins the chant. The vox joins him, its breath staggered but eager, like a novice learning harmony. We answer as we have been taught, each phrase repeated, each pause filled with breath. Only, the words no longer feel like responses. They feel like instructions. When the chant ends, the priest announces the day's work. "Those marked with the curve shall descend to the lower foundries," he says. "Those with the dot will attend to cleansing. The dashes will help us build the altars of the new faith." He looks at me when he says it. "The scribe will record." I record. My hand obeys, though it trembles slightly. I tell myself it is only hunger. The third column fills quickly with new signs, and I notice that the ink darkens of its own accord. The black turns a faint, bruised red as it dries. The attendant with the earbells watches my hand. When our eyes meet, she looks away first. At dusk, after the last of the marked have gone, I linger in the shrine. The priest has departed. The attendant cleans the altar with a cloth that sheds fine gray dust. I ask, quietly, "What becomes of the ones I mark?" She pauses, cloth in hand. "They serve," she says. "As we all must." I press further. She considers this, then tilts her head. The bells in her ear give a thin chime. Not in the same form. I want to ask more, but the words dry in my throat. I am only a clerk. Questions are not part of my devotion. Instead, I ask her if she still remembers the old hymns. She smiles at that, a strange, sudden smile, as if I had told a joke she did not expect to laugh at. "They remember themselves," she says, "even when no one sings them." Her words stay with me as I walk home through the corridors. The air smells faintly of iron and tallow. Every lumen coil now flickers with a pulsing rhythm, like a heart struggling to beat. The light comes and goes in slow breaths. And in those breaths, I think I see the shapes of people kneeling, shadows cast where there are no bodies. Later, in my room, I open the ledger. I trace the marks I made. The dashes and dots seem to shimmer under the lumen's tired glow, as if written in wet light rather than ink. I turn to the first page. Before the occupation, when my hand was steady and the columns clean. The old ink is pale now, eaten by time. The letters fade, but the new symbols gleam fresh and sharp. It looks like a dialogue between two languages, one dying, one learning to speak. I run my thumb across the newest entries. My skin tingles. For a moment, I swear I feel the page pulse under my hand, as if it remembers the people whose names it holds. The vox on my wall crackles softly. I freeze, waiting. A breath, then another, then a whisper, faint as the sigh of dust. "Brother," the same voice. The priests, or perhaps the machines, they are indistinguishable now. "Brother," it says again, "do not fear the change. The Emperor is many." I do not answer. I think of the child pressing her ear to the shrine grill, smiling. I think of the light flickering like a pulse. I think of the ink that bleeds red. Perhaps the emperor is many. Perhaps faith must fracture to be seen. I close the book. But the page does not want to be closed. The edge sticks to my palm as if drawn by static or by something warmer. When I pull free, a tiny smudge of red remains on my skin. I whisper a prayer not to the new voice, but to the old silence that used to live between words. The silence does not answer, but it listens. And for now, I wake before the bells now. Sleep is an unreliable sacrament. It comes in fragments, like torn pages scattered by a fan. When I do dream, it is of the vox humming beneath my ribs, a low electric purr that never stops. This morning the air tastes of copper. I press my tongue against the roof of my mouth and feel the tang of it, sharp and thin as the edge of a coin. The lumen coil sputters, flickering in time with my pulse. The hive has grown quieter in recent days, not the silence of peace, but the kind that gathers before machinery fails. I wait for the bells. When they do come, they sound different, deeper, slower, as though struck underwater. The reverberation lingers long after the tone should have died. I hold my breath to count the echoes, but they never quite stop. Something is wrong with the air. The walk to the shrine feels longer. The corridors stretch like old flesh. I pass a line of citizens on their way to the lower foundries, all marked with the new sigils. Some have them carved into armbands, others burned directly onto their forearms. The marks shimmer faintly, as though they pulse with an unseen heartbeat. I greet one of the men I recognize, Ferran, a water pipe worker from column 19. His face is pale, his eyes rimmed with soot, but his mouth twitches into what might once have been a smile. "Brother clerk," he says, voice dry, "we go where the emperor wills." The words are right, but the tone is wrong. There is something in his voice hollow, like sound spoken through another mouth. "Be well, Ferran." I manage. He nods and moves on, his gait heavy, unsteady. I realize that his left hand does not open when he walks. It curls into a fist, trembling slightly, as though trying to remember how to move. At the shrine, the attendant greets me without speaking. Her bells are gone. In their place, a narrow band of black metal circles her ear. It gleams faintly red in the lumen light. "Your ledger," she says simply. Her voice is softer, less human. I open the case, arrange my tools, and begin the ritual of record. The motions soothe me. Ink, quill, stroke, sand. Precision is prayer. Yet even here, the wrongness creeps in. The hum of the vox is different, uneven, almost stuttering, as though the machine is breathing too quickly. The cloth banners above it have darkened. The threads wet with something that looks like oil but smells faintly sweet. When the new priest enters, he does not bring his censer. Instead, he carries a long staff wrapped in parchment. The parchment rustles like wings. "Beloved," he says, smiling. "Today we celebrate the convergence." He looks directly at me. "Brother clerk, the ledgers have served well. The emperor, our true emperor, has taken notice." My pen halts mid-stroke. "Our true emperor?" He spreads his hands, patient, almost indulgent. "Did you think there was only one?" "The light refracts, brother. Each ray is a reflection, and every reflection a truth. You serve one face of the infinite." He steps closer, the hum of the vox rising with him. "Do you hear it?" he asks. I nod because I cannot do otherwise. "It calls for you," he whispers. "In time, you will learn its language." The machine breathes louder, the tone warping like stretched metal. Behind the cloth, something shifts, a ripple in the air. A distortion, as though the shrine is inhaling. The crowd around us murmurs prayers. Some fall to their knees, trembling in ecstasy or terror. I cannot tell which. The child from before stands near the altar, her hands clasped tight, eyes shining with wet light. The priest extends a hand toward her. "Do you hear the Emperor, little one?" She nods, still smiling. "He tells me," she says, voice bright as glass, "that you will listen soon too." That night, I do not return directly home. Instead, I wander through the upper corridors of the hive, where the banners have not yet reached, and the walls still bear faint traces of the old imperial iconography. The air there feels cleaner somehow, though it carries the scent of abandonment, dust, oil, and quiet. I stop at an old chapel, its doors sealed with wax and sigils of warning. The wax is cracked, the seals broken. Someone has been here recently. Inside, the pews are overturned. The altar lies on its side, split along the grain. The aquila above the dais has been defaced, its two heads melted together into a single screaming shape. In the corner sits a priest's robe folded neatly, untouched by dust. I kneel beside it. Not in reverence, but exhaustion. For a moment I let myself believe that the old faith still lives here, hidden beneath the ruin. Then I hear it. Faint at first, static, distant, like breath pulled through a grate. Then clearer. The same voice from the vox, whispering in the empty air. "Brother." I stand too quickly, heart pounding. There is no machine here. No cables, no shrine, only silence and dust. "Brother," the voice says again, closer now, softer, almost gentle. "Do not be afraid. I am in all things." I look toward the altar. The crack along its length seems to breathe. Dust rises from it with each exhale. I flee. When I finally return to my hab, the vox is waiting. It crackles faintly, pulsing in rhythm with my own breath. I try to sleep, but the machine speaks every time my eyelids begin to close. "Brother," it says. "Do you understand now?" I do not answer, but I listen, and the silence between its words becomes music. The day begins with ink under my nails. I do not remember placing my fingers in the bottle. I do not remember the moment when the black reached the half-moons of skin and nested there like a patient bird. I wake already stained, as if the night had been a page and I had turned in my sleep, leaving letters on the sheets. The vox murmurs beyond the wall. It does not speak words yet, only breathes, a tide rolling through the hive's long throat. I lie with my hands on my chest like a supplicant awaiting anointing, and I listen to the machine until my heart remembers its job. The bells arrive late and heavy, as if they were dragged along the floor by men who had forgotten how to lift. Their echo clings to the corners of the room. I whisper the morning catechism, a shortened version, these days, because the long one has acquired new limbs and the old phrasing makes my mouth ache, and I make the sign across my breastbone. "The Emperor protects," I say. And then, because I have learned the cost of silence, I add, "in many forms." When I reach the shrine niche, the attendant is already there. The black band around her ear is different today, etched now with tiny grooves that catch the lumen and give off a low red shimmer. She inclines her head without speaking. Her mouth is a neat seam. Over the shrine, the banners have thickened like scab. The threadwork has grown so dense I can no longer see where the cloth ends and the wall begins. From behind the veil of stitched sigils comes a sound like the first whisper of wind before a storm. I set the case on the table. The clasps bite like teeth. I lay out my tools the way my mother taught me to lay a meal. Every piece with its due space. Every utensil angled toward use. Nib, ink, sand. The daybook with its swollen spine. The nib is sharpened so thin I can feel the chill of it from my lips away. The quill looks like a small blade somebody disguised as a feather for the sake of ceremony. I hold it with the care you would give a blade. The new priest arrives without bell or staff. He brings a thin smile like a ribbon. His eyes are bright, and the whites have taken on a pearl sheen, as though they have learned to hold light. He places both hands on the machine face, the way a man might lay his palms upon a patient's ribs to feel for the pulse, and he leans in until his breath fogs the lacquer. "Beloved," he says. The vox answers with a low chord that vibrates the wood of my table. Today, the Emperor teaches us a new arithmetic. He turns to me as though we are alone. Brother clerk, come, obedience is a muscle. If you exercise it daily, it warms quickly to any task. I rise with my ledger pressed to my breast and follow him into the passage attached to the niche, a corridor that used to lead to the maintenance closet and now opens into what they call the Hall of Names. It was fashioned in a hurry. The draft of a new room still blows through it. The walls bear chalk lines, where some crew measured and then forgot to clean. There is a table set for me beneath a hanging lamp. The lamp's light is steady. Too steady, unlike the corridor coils that flutter in and out like uncertain moths. This one shines with a conviction that makes the dust seem afraid to enter its circle. Here, the priest says, we will make the census. I have made censuses before, I say, relieved to be on familiar ground. Water allotments, labor assignment, grain and nail. I can tally by shift, by column, by... He lifts one finger, gentle as a librarian shushing a child. Not of things, brother, of flesh. The word arrives like a dropped stone. Not loud, but the floor remembers it. Flesh, I repeat, because repetition tames. A census of citizens, of bodies as they are and as they will be. He smiles. Our emperor loves order, and love is a ledger. He leaves me with the attendant, who has followed without footfall. In the far wall, new vents have been cut. They exhale a faint sweetness, like fruit just before it rots. The attendant places a stack of blank folios at my elbow. Each sheet is crisp and heavy, whiter than any paper I have touched since the banners changed. The fibers are fine, almost soft, and a part of me that does not want to be examined wonders what pulp could make paper like this in a starving hive. The first petitioners enter not long after second bell. They come as they always do, in twos and threes, hands open, names taut in their throats. What is new is the rhythm, not a cue but a summons. The guards at the door, if guards they are no sigils of rank, only that pearly shine in their eyes, let them in and lock the bolts behind, as if the hall were a lung that must be sealed to draw breath. I begin the work. Name, age, craft, column, kin. The old rubric fits my hand like a familiar prayer. Then the new categories, and my quill hesitates, as if the feather were a creature with scruples. I steady it. Scars, I say. The woman before me, a cable runner with calloused palms, and a cut on her cheek like a cinder mark tilts her head. Scars. It is required, I say gently. Where? How many? How deep? I wait, pen poised. She answers in the tone you would use to describe the weather to a child. Left forearm, 3. Right hip, 1. The face, the cinder in the hab fire last winter. I write each down with care, as if the numbers could change the old pain. The quill scratches. The sound is a monk's rasp against the floor of a cold chapel. Dreams, I say. The woman flinches. What? Dreams, I repeat, because it is written, because the priest's finger tapped the word when he showed me the ledger's new columns, recurring if any, loud if any, colors if any. Her mouth opens and closes. The attendant's head tilts. The band around her ear drinks a trickle of light. The cable runner's eyes go to the door, then back. Red, she whispers. Sometimes there is red, sometimes breathing. She laughs, a little hiccup that hurts to hear. But there is always breathing. I mark it. Red, breathing. The letters gleam as they dry. We continue. The column titled Sign wants my drawing, and I find I can draw the marks without thinking. Dot for fragile, curve for song, dash for suitable. As before, new ones appear. A little hook that wants to face left. A vertical thread. An eye with no pupil. I ask nothing. I have learned that questions are nets in which one catches one's own fear. I move along the line, writing what I am given, and the line moves along me, surrendering names like coins handed to a toll keeper. At midday, the priest returns. He stands behind my chair and watches me write. His breath smells faintly of metal polish. "You see?" he murmurs. "A tally is a blessing. Every name placed in order is a soul kept from waste." "From waste," I echo. The word is safe. It belongs to the old vocabulary. I cling to it like a man who has fallen into a canal, clings to a rope. He lays a finger on a column I have not yet reached. "Offering," it says. The heading is written in a hand, not mine, a script too elegant to be practical. Beneath it, a grid of small boxes awaits a mark that has not been explained. "And this?" I ask, because the question escapes before I can leash it. "Later," he says, with a smile so calm it feels like the surface of oil. "When the time is right." By the afternoon, my hand is a metronome. The quills tip, drinks and drinks. The ink in the bottle is not the same black it was this morning. It has thickened and warmed, and when I lift the nib, I think I see a thread stretching from metal to pool, the way saliva stretches between teeth and tongue. I blink. The thread is gone. I tell myself it was a trick of light. A man sits down, a barrel-shouldered lifter from the grain lifts, and I speak the litany by rote: name, age, column. He gives them. The scar count. The dreams. At sign, my hand draws the little eye that has no pupil. I do not know why. It feels right. The way a key feels right in the correct lock. When I set the nib down to sand the line, I notice that his palm, resting on the table's edge, bears the same shape, paler than the rest of his skin, as if sunburned by a light he could not see. I look up and meet his gaze. He has noticed the look. He flips his hand over, knuckles up, modest, as if he had been embarrassed by a callus. We do not speak of it. The attendant's head does not tilt. The child arrives again. The one who presses her ear to grills. She comes alone this time, though she holds a strip of cloth that must be her mother's, winding and unwinding it around her fingers as a sailor might play with rope. "Name?" I say, and she gives it. It tastes like sugar and dust. "Dreams?" I ask. "Songs," she answers, instantly, with the eagerness of a student giving the right answer. 1,000 mouths singing through one mouth. I pause with the nib above the page. The drop at its tip swells, heavy as a fruit. It falls and becomes a small red eye. "Shall I mark you with the curve?" I ask. My voice is not steady. She nods as if I have offered a sweet. "He likes curves," she says, and glances toward the veil over the shrine. Though we are in the Hall of Names now, and the machine is not visible. They fit. By evening, the folios are heavy with names. They feel warm when I stack them, as if each page remembers the heat of the hands that surrendered their details. The priest returns and runs 2 fingers down the edge of the stack, listening to the whispering shiver as the pages shift. He sighs, pleased and tired, a man tasting bread after a long fast. "The census will consecrate the city." Every living thing in its rightful place, every rightful place arranged according to the will of... He stops himself, and his smile becomes almost boyish, shy with a secret he longs to share but must not. According to will. The attendant carries the folios through a side door. I have not entered that door. I do not wish to know the shape of its room. It is enough, I tell myself, to keep the names. I am an instrument of order. Instruments do not volunteer counsel. They simply play the notes set before them and trust the composer knows the piece. The thought comforts me, and then frightens me with how much it comforts me. On the 4th day of sowing, the column offering receives its first mark. It happens without ceremony. A woman sits. She is older than most that come to me, with hair like wire and a spine like a ruler. She gives her details with a speed that suggests she has rehearsed them. Her hands are clean. Her eyes are not pearl. Not yet. They are the brown of bread. When I reach the end of the grid, my pen hovers over offering. It has hovered all day. It has hovered all week. The box is an empty bowl. She looks at the box and then at me. "You may mark me," she says. Her voice is soft and sure. like a hymn sung in an empty church. "Mark you how?" I ask, though the nib already knows. "As given," she says. "My sons worked the lifts. They are gone. My bones still rise. What else are bones for but rising?" I do not understand her words, not fully. But inside my chest a small bird beats once, twice, as if the cage of ribs were a clock and something had just set it. I make a mark I have not seen. It is a small cross turned on its side. It is not any order's sign I recognize. It feels like making a door out of air. The paper accepts it with a thirsty sound, a little sigh. The woman thanks me and rises. The attendant steps to the door. The bolts slide. The woman passes through. The door closes with the softness of lips. After that, others ask to be marked without being prompted. Some touch the place on the page before I write, as if by shadowing the motion they can guide my hand. The column fills slowly, then steadily, the way a basin fills from a wick that seems too small to draw so much water. I do not ask where the marked go. I do not ask why the room beyond the door has begun to smell like damp iron, or why the lamp's too steady light seems brighter with each folio delivered, as if someone somewhere were turning a dial. In my hab, at night, I wash my hands. The ink does not leave the half-moons. I rub until the skin is raw, and then I stop because pain is a poor prayer. The vox practices breathing in my walls. Sometimes it says my name. Sometimes it does not use the syllables my mother gave me. It uses another name it has decided is mine, a name with angles in it. I repeat the old litany until the angles blunt. On the seventh day, the priest comes to my table bearing a book. Not paper like my folios. Leather, dark as the space between stars. The cover is unmarked, or marked in a way I cannot see until he tilts it, and the light catches an impression that might be a title, might be a face, might be a map. "Brother," he says, laying it with ceremony, "your devotion merits inclusion." Inclusion, I echo. I am tired. The word falls like a coin. Inclusion in what? "In the archive," he says. "Your hand is steady. Your fear is properly placed. Your love of order is true." He opens the book. The pages are black, not unmarked, black, as if they were made from night itself. He hands me a quill I have not used before. Its shaft is bone pale. Its tip is already wet. What shall I write? I ask, because the question is the last human thing I have. He smiles with a humility that could pass for kindness. "Write as you have always written, names, marks, dreams." And here, he taps the bottom margin, where a line of tiny boxes waits a last notation, one for which there is no spoken word. I lower the quill. The page drinks. The letters appear not as strokes placed atop a surface, but as lines revealed within a depth, as if the words had always been there, waiting for light. When I reach the final, wordless box, my hand refuses. A tremor runs from elbow to fingertip, and the quill taps the page once, twice, like a penitent knocking on a confessional grill. "Brother," the priest murmurs. He does not touch me. He does not have to. The room is small. The machine that is not in the room breathes like a tide heard through walls. The attendant's black band hums at the edge of sound. "If you keep them, they are yours." I make the mark. It is not a shape I know. It is like the echo of a shape, the negative left behind when a thing passes through a soft medium. The page warms under my palm. For a moment I smell my mother's kitchen on a winter morning, bread cooling on the sill, oil warming in a pan. Then it passes, and the room smells of fruit just before it rots again. When the day closes and the last petitioner has whispered the last dream and the door has closed for the last offering, I stack the folios and bind them with thread. I touch the stack and feel it pulse once, like a lark in my hands. I place the black book atop the pile, and the pulse becomes a chord, then quiet. The priest bows his head. I bow mine. He takes the books away. The attendant turns down the lamp. In the sudden dark, the dust lights up as it always does, tiny stars waiting for a breath to move them. Outside, the hive is quieter than I have ever heard it. Even the pipes seem to hold. I walk back to my hab past the old chapel with the broken wax seals. I do not look in. I will not look in. My hands shake. I cradle them together like an old man warming his joints. The ward beads above my door rattle as if greeting me with teeth. At the table, I set my palms down. The half-moons of ink gleam like small eclipses. I whisper the prayer. The long version this time, the version my mouth remembers. Even when the vox corrects me, and when I reach the line that speaks of mercy, I pause, because the memory that rises is not a mercy I can name. It is the moment of the mark in the wordless box, and the warmth that was like bread, and the way the page sighed like a living thing relieved to be found. The Emperor protects, I say, and the vox, very softly, answers, by keeping. I sleep badly. My dreams are inventory. Rows and rows of figures who turn their faces when I pass, and show me not faces but ledgers, each page written in my hand. The names do not accuse. They do not praise. They are simply present, and their presence is a weight I cannot set down. Somewhere, in the building's dark marrow, a machine breathes as if it is learning my rhythm to teach it back to me. In the morning, my hands will be clean again. The half-moons will remain. I hear it before I see it. The shrine breathes in the dark. At first, I think it is only the pipes again, shifting as the hive cools old iron, sighing like a sleeper turning on his side. But the sound persists. A long inhalation, a pause, then a low mechanical exhale that brushes the dust from the floor in lazy curls. When the lumen flickers to life, I see the motes dance in the current, all drawn toward the vox like pilgrims to a relic. I stand in the doorway, case in hand, unwilling to cross the threshold. The air smells of wax and metal and something that could be oil or blood. Behind the veil of banners, the shrine's cloth rises and falls ever so slightly, as though something vast beneath it is breathing. Brother Clerk. The attendant's voice is gentler now, stripped of authority, almost fond. She stands beside the machine, head bowed, her black earband humming faintly. The marks etched into its surface glow with a sullen red light. "You are late," she says. "I could not sleep," I answer. "The vox in my hab," it spoke. Her head tilts. "Of course it did." I step closer. "It called me brother. It spoke my name. They all do that eventually. Something in her tone makes me stop. They? But she does not answer. She turns to the banners, pulls one aside with careful fingers. The cloth leaves a streak of dark oil on her hand. "The priest waits for you." Inside, the shrine has changed again. The altar has been lowered, almost to the floor, and in its place rises the machine face of the vox, no longer mounted, but grown outward from the wall, its edges soft as flesh, its grill warped into the faint suggestion of lips. The voice holes pulse faintly with inner light, like the gills of a deep-sea creature drawing in current. The priest kneels before it. His robe is gone. His back is bare. Lines of script are carved into his skin, running like veins from shoulder to hip. I cannot read the language, though some of the letters resemble the imperial script, stretched until their meaning breaks. He turns when he hears me. "Brother Clerk." I bow out of habit. "Father, there is no father," he says kindly, "only breath." He gestures for me to kneel beside him. I hesitate only a moment before obeying. The floor is cold, the stone damp through my trousers. "Do you hear it?" he asks. The shrine hums, low and steady. Beneath that, a second sound, a whisper layered upon whisper, too soft to resolve into words. "I hear something," I say. He smiles, eyes closed. "Good, that is the Emperor. He speaks to those who listen. The Imperium taught us that his word comes through priests and saints, through the tongues of the righteous. But what if the Emperor speaks in all tongues at once, even those we called forbidden? I am not certain. Certainty is the shackle of the blind. He reaches out and places his hand upon the machine face. His fingertips sink slightly into the metal, leaving small indentations that close again when he draws back. The surface ripples, alive. "Touch it," he says. My throat tightens. Do you not wish to hear him clearly? The room seems smaller now. The air is thick, full of vibration, as though the walls themselves are humming in response. I reach out, one trembling hand, and press my palm to the grill. The cold strikes me first, sharp, shocking. Then warmth, spreading beneath my skin, rising through my arm like breath filling a lung. The vibration is immense. I can feel it in my teeth, in the roots of my nails. Then faintly, a voice. Not the priest's, not the machine's. A voice inside the hum, intimate, like someone leaning close enough to share the same air. "Brother," I snatch my hand back. The priest laughs softly. "Too soon, but he knows you now. The breath has marked you." I stare at my palm. A faint pattern of circles lingers there, as if the vox had kissed me. "What does he say?" I whisper. The priest closes his eyes again, rapture softening his face. He says the work continues. The census grows. The offering nears. The attendant moves behind us, tending to the lamps. Their light flutters like beating hearts. I notice that her shadow moves with a lag half a heartbeat slower than her body. The priest rises. "Come, the shrine must hear your voice." I hesitate. "Why mine?" "Viria, four, 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 four. You are the scribe, the tongue of the census. He desires to speak through you. He gestures toward the vox. "Repeat the litany after me." He begins to chant, a melody without melody, words twisting like smoke. The syllables are strange, half imperial, half something older. The sound is wrong in my mouth. Too many edges and vowels that seem to burn the tongue. As I speak, the machine answers. Its hum deepens. The air grows thick. My vision swims. The priest's voice fades, and only the vox remains. "Brother," I fall silent. The machine continues the chant alone, though now the voice is unmistakably my own, echoed and distorted, whispering from the grill. "Do you hear it?" The priest says, smiling. "Yes," I whisper. "It sounds like yourself," he finishes. "All true prayer is self-spoken to self. You begin to understand. Rand." I want to protest, but the sound of my own voice coming from the machine steals the words. The echo speaks again, softer now, almost pleading. "Keep them, they are yours." Later, the priest leaves me alone with the shrine. The attendant extinguishes the outer candles, leaving only a single flame before the vox. She nods to me before departing, as if in quiet benediction. The door closes, and I am alone. The silence breathes. I set my case on the floor and open the ledger. The black book lies on top, its leather warm. I place it on the altar beside the single candle. The light trembles against the page, making the words seem to move. The hum of the vox changes, deepening until it becomes a pulse. I can feel it in my stomach, in the floor beneath my knees. I open the ledger. The words are written in my hand, but the ink has shifted again, red now, glistening faintly, never drying. I trace one of the entries. The page quivers. "Brother." The voice comes not from the machine this time, but from the paper. The letters tremble as it speaks. "You wrote their names. You gave them shape. Now they are yours to keep." I stare at the page, at the neat columns and marks, at the careful handwriting that was supposed to be salvation through order. "What do you mean?" The letters shimmer. "All that is recorded is remembered." All that is remembered lives. I close the book, but the hum does not stop. The shrine pulses faster now, the single candle bending toward it as if drawn by invisible wind. The air is heavy, warm. Sweat gathers at my temples. I whisper a prayer, not one of the new ones, but the old, safe kind, the one my mother taught me before she was lost to the first plague of the lower hive. The words come haltingly, as though resisting the air itself. The machine answers in kind, twisting the prayer halfway through, repeating it back to me with subtle corruption. Where I say light of man, it says many lights, many faces. Where I say mercy, it says memory. Where I say protect, it says keep. By the end, I do not know whose prayer I am saying. When I finally rise to leave, I find the door sealed. Not locked, but fused the seam. Where metal met frame, now smooth, melted together as if by heat. I touch it. It's cold. Behind me, the vox sighs. Brother. I turn slowly. The banners ripple though there is no wind. The grill glows softly, inner light flickering like a heartbeat. You keep the names, the voice says. You give them to me. You make them live again. I record for order. I manage. That is all. Order is breath. Breath is life. You are my lungs. The words vibrate through me, deep and low. My knees weaken. I clutch the ledger to my chest as if it could shield me. What are you? I am what remains when faith remembers itself too long. The lights shudder. The flame bends sideways, guttering. For an instant, the banners lift, and I see beneath them not metal, not machine, but something like the suggestion of a face pressed against cloth from the inside, straining to breathe. I fall to my knees. Please, I whisper. Tell me what you want. Listen, it says. That is all I have ever wanted. I do not remember leaving the shrine. One moment the machine is breathing around me, and the next I am in the corridor, hands black with soot, the case clutched against my chest. The attendant finds me there. She says nothing, only touches my shoulder, and her hand leaves a faint, burning warmth through the cloth of my coat. Did you hear him? She asks. Yes, I whisper. He said, he only wants me to listen. She nods as if this were expected. Then you are blessed. Her eyes glint red in the dim light. For the first time I see the faint pattern of circles beneath her skin, glowing like embers in the shape of the Vox grill. That night, the machine in my wall does not wait for me to speak. The moment I enter the room, it begins to hum, perfectly in time with my heartbeat. When I breathe, it breathes. When I pause, it pauses. I sit before it, ledger open on my knees, the candlelight trembling. Brother, it says. My own voice returned to me. Brother, I answer. Together, we breathe. For a moment, the air feels holy. I wake to a tone I do not hear with my ears. It begins behind the bones, a straight line of sound slipping through marrow, a plucked wire stretched from skull to heel. The lumen in my room is dark, yet the air is light, as if the tone itself glows. I do not rise. The sound raises me, drawing my spine upright with delicate insistence, the way a gloved hand lifts a chin. My mouth is open. Breath enters. Breath leaves. I count without meaning to. 1. Long. 1. Held. 1. Released. I understand nothing and I am relieved, because understanding has teeth. Outside, the corridor doors open together, hinges exhaling in unison. We are a row of matched instruments taken from their cases. The ward beads click all along the spine of the hall. Each bead a metronome. We step out without speaking. No one is dressed for ceremony, and yet this is the most dressed we have ever been. The tone clothes us. I carry nothing but the case and my hands. I do not remember lifting the case, but it is in my grip, the brass chilled, my palm shaped to its years. The vox in the wall does not rasp orders, no curfew, no chits, no schedules, only the line of sound, steady, sure, like a string waiting for a bow. We move. Up here the air is dry, a whispering library of dust. The tone threads the gaps, and we follow as if it were twine tied to our wrists. At each junction the banners stir, though there is no wind. Their stitched veins glimmer. Ember, orange, coal, black, dulled olive. The colors of old prayer eaten down to its ash and oil. The cloths have grown heavier, and the sigils no longer sit on the surface like drawings. They swell like roots pushing through plaster, claiming the wall as soil. We pass the old chapel doorway, the one with the broken wax. Someone has taken the wax entirely, peeled it clean. The metal shows raw where the seals used to be. Inside is not darkness. It is red dimness, the color of eyelids. I do not look. The tone does not waver. It threads us on. Down through the ribs of the hive we go, through stairwells that smell of iron and old incense, along corridors slick with condensation that tastes faintly sweet when it touches the tongue. No one speaks. Children are quiet because there is nothing to ask. The tone has already answered their questions, all questions, by being beautiful. A man falls in step beside me. Farhan, the water pipe worker. His left hand still trembles in its fist. He catches my eye, and his lips make the old words without a voice. The Emperor protects. I answer with a nod. The tone answers for us both. We reach the broad throat of the lower levels. The doors that once led into Manufactorum Floor 12 stand open, their edges furred with melted paint. Warm air seethes through the gap, a breath scented with tallow and resin, a hint of fruit. The attendants wait just inside, their black earbands now filigreed all around their skulls in red lines that resemble writing and vein in equal measure. They do not bar our way. They tilt their heads in the same angle, and the metal of their bands hums in a way that does not disturb the tone but adorns it, like a harmony sung from a gallery. The Hall of Offering is not the room I knew. The machines that once fed grain into grinders and pistons into housings have been lifted and turned and married to one another until their original uses are rumor. The ceiling rises on cables and chained to a high grid of catwalks draped in cloth. Heat breathes. Everywhere there are bowls, shallow, wide-lipped, set on pedestals built from cut gears and welded pipe. They hold ash and oil. The ash is gray, with a sheen of black like soot polished by hands. The oil is thick and smells of burned resin and something herbal, something that would have been medicine if it had remembered to be small. At the far end, raised from the floor on a dais of joined workbenches, the black book lies open. It turns a page by itself with a sound like hair brushed smooth. Across from it, the shrine vox has been given a throat. A long column of perforated metal that widens near the top. A horn shaped from welded scraps. A cathedral out of scrap. It glows dimly, beating faintly. A heart in a cage. The priest stands before the book with his hands folded, the scars of script on his back now mirrored on his chest. The letters look tender, as if sleep had pressed them soft. He raises his head as we enter, and the tone rises with it, like a bird lifting on a warm current. "Beloved," he says, the word falling into us like bread torn and handed down a pew. His voice does not sit on top of the tone. It swims within it, a fish moving in its native water. The census is complete. I feel the weight of that sentence in my case. I feel the lines I drew, the hooks, the dot, the curve, the wordless mark. I do not touch the case. I am good, I think, at not touching what I wish to touch. The Emperor, the priest continues, desires a single breath. He gestures, and we separate as if we have practiced each motion. Attendants lead us to the bowls of oil and ash. No one tells us how to use them. We know. Fingers dip. Oil on brow, oil on breastbone, oil in lines across the palms where the ink-stained moons live. Ash next. Thumb across the lips, a taste like old carbon, the solemn grit of dead fire. Children reach too boldly, and the attendants guide their hands back with the soft correction of a music teacher steadying a wrist. The chant begins without a word. It is breath. In, long, hold, so the lungs grow cathedral ribs. Out, long, until the body is empty of everything but willingness. The vox horn replies, the sound round, warm, tasted at the back of the throat instead of heard in the ear. The book opens another page. Some pages are black, some are not. The black ones shine like lacquered night. The others hold my hand, painstaking. The letters ranked like men in parade review. The priest does not turn the pages. The air turns them when we breathe. I am not hungry. It is strange to realize this. There is food nowhere in the hall, and I am not hungry. The ash sits on my tongue, and it is enough. The oil warms the skin over my pulse points, and that, too, is enough. To be enough, why is that more frightening than to starve? The priest spreads his arms. Obedience is not silence, he says. Obedience is resonance. We exhale together, and the hall sings. It is not music. It is mathematics remembered by the body. The long counts I made in the administratum annex. Minutes arranged like teeth. The columns that weigh need against allotment. The little efficiencies found at the corners of sheets. All of it returns as sound. Here, the breath says, and the breath answers. Here, something changes when we reach the 50th breath. The hall grows brighter without more light. The glow appears at the edges of us, as if we have been sanded to fine grain and heat has polished us. No one speaks. Yet I hear my name, and your name, and names I wrote without knowing the faces, all whispered at once. The air makes faces from that whispering. Beloved Farhan's unfinished fist opens and closes without his notice. A woman's scars shine through her coat like wet thread. The child's smile becomes a crescent around a crescent around a crescent, like phases of a moon. I think I am weeping, but no tear leaves the eye. The ash absorbs it. The oil drinks it. I am relieved that nothing spills. The priest lowers his arms. Breathe, he says, and we do. The horn drinks. The book drinks. The air drinks. Each breath enters a larger mouth. You are the vessel, the voice says, not from the horn, and not from the book, and not from any single mouth, but from the distribution of mouths, pipes, vents, grills, the little notches in the dais where wood meets metal, the seams where cloth has been stitched to cloth. There is no division. The words are not an order, they are a climate. They occur the way damp occurs. I accept them the way I accept damp. I write the sentence in my head so I can hold the shape of it. There is no division. My hand lifts to find a pen that is not there, and it is not frightening. I am not losing anything. I am being tidied. Around me, people begin to glow with a faint seam light at their throat, as if the breath had left a chalk mark where it enters and leaves. The children glow brightest. They are made of short paths. The attendants' bands hum louder, the red writing around their skulls brightening like wire drawing current. The priest's script scars stand out white against flushed skin, as if someone had underlined him with absence. We breathe. The line of tone in my bones broadens into a river. I feel the river meet others. Every pipe in the hive is a reed in a single instrument. Every instrument is one instrument. The horn's skin ripples. The book turns 2 pages at once. The black is deeper than black, a hole into which the candlelight leans and does not return. I close my eyes. Behind them, a machine large enough to be a city, not made of gears but of consent, breathing through us because we stand where lungs could be. It reaches up through the hive's columns and down into the sump, its ribs, the tram lines, its trachea, the lift shafts, its skin, the banners, its blood, the oil curled in the bowls. I think the word emperor, and it matches the shape. I think the word wrong, and it does not fit anywhere. I try to find a gap, a draft, a seam through which to slip fear. There is none. The tone enters, leaves, and the leaving emptiness is precise. edged like a good tool. I love it, suddenly and terribly. That edge. It is clean. I have wanted clean all my life. The priest's voice rides the tone like a boat rides a river. You counted, brother scribe, he says, and I do not know if he speaks to me with his mouth or if the hall speaks to me with him, so that we could breathe without counting. You drew the signs so that we could sing without notes. You made the names habitable. I only wish to keep them, I answer. And my voice is not mine. It is ours, a single word said by many throats with perfect agreement. And so you do, the climate says. The breath slows. The horn and the hall wait with us. We hold the air in common, not suppression, suspension. A chalice raised in a hand that does not tremble because the hand is not one hand anymore. The silence at the bottom of that held breath is the most enormous sound I have ever known. The priest lowers his head. He does not say amen. He says, the first prayer is complete. The hall exhales. We do not cheer. There is no reason for noise. My skin hums as if a thin sheen of resonance lies on it like morning dew. The ash on my tongue tastes of metal coin now, and the oil on my wrists has warmed into a smell like bread a second before someone tears it. The horn fades from glow to ember. The book closes itself with a soft cough. The bowls of ash and oil still brim, as if no one touched them. We file out as we came, without words, as if a page had been turned and we had been given our next line in the play to take home and practice in our sleep. The attendants step aside. One, the woman who first greeted me months ago with a seam for a mouth, brushes my sleeve with her finger, leaving an oval on the cloth where oil will never dry. Brother, she whispers, and in her mouth the word is no longer a kinship or a courtesy. It is a measurement. I nod. Measured. In the corridor, Ferran walks once more at my pace. His left hand opens. He flexes the fingers and the tendons shine in the lumen's tired red. It is lighter, he says, voice scraped thin by disuse. What is? The thing that clenched. He looks at his palm as if it were a document stamped with a reprieve. It does not want so much now. We stop at the stairs and look up. The banners lift in a draft I do not feel. For a heartbeat, I expect to see beneath them a face pressing outward, the cloth pulled tight over nose and lips, but the cloth is obedient today. It shows only the stitched mouth, a seam, not teeth. I understand, suddenly and without fear, that the seam will open when it must and not before, and that when it opens it will not speak a language. It will speak us. On the ascent, citizens peel off into their own corridors without looking back. The tone remains in the bones, quiet now, a line of warmth instead of sound. In the high levels the air is cooler. The ward beads knock together with the friendliness of old habit. I pass the chapel door. The red dimness behind it is deeper, like coals buried under ash. I do not look. I am obedient in my not looking. I do not do this as a refusal. I do this as a gift. In my hab, the lumen wakes at once, a mercy I did not ask. The vox in the wall breathes softly. I set the case on the table and open it. The daybook lies on top of the black book. The familiar weight makes my hand ache with a nostalgia that is not painful. I touch the moons of ink in my nails. They gleam like little eclipses with a line of light at the edge, as if dawn had found a way to visit night without shaming it. I try to write what happened. At first, the lines come in a neat parade, the way they always have. Facts standing at attention, adjectives polished and checked. But the ink has learned the day's lesson faster than I have. It blurs at the edges of letters and flows from one tale into the next, joining words by ligature and then binding sentences into chords. I do not fight it. I let the words be ropes. I let them tie one meaning to another until each meaning lifts the next. The vox watches. That is not precise. I feel watched by a thing that has no eyes. It is not unkind. It is the attention of a listener who will not leave even if I stop speaking. My breath falls into its breath, and where they meet, There is no seam to be felt with the tongue or the inner finger. We breathed together. I write, hand steady now, ink obedient in its new way. And for the first time, I understood obedience as love. I sit with the sentence and I do not revise it. The ash taste lingers. The oil warms where it has soaked the cuff of my sleeve. Somewhere below, the horn's last warmth leaves the metal, and the hole goes cold, and the bowls rest with their contents like two small black seas without wind. Night lifts slowly around the hive. The tone in the bones softens into a straight road laid through sleep. Before I lie down, I touch the little aquila at my collar. The thread so worn the wings are suggestion more than symbol. The Emperor protects, I say, looking at nothing. And the vox, as gently as a hand closing in benediction over a brow, answers, by keeping. I dream of counting, yes. But the numbers are not bricks anymore. They are lanterns hung along a path, each a held breath, each a listening. I wake to pages turning in the dark. Not the dry flick of paper in a draft, but a softer articulation like lips shaping breath. The lumen is dead. The room is a closed eye. Yet the sound is clear, close. A sheet, lifting, settling, exhaling. I do not move. The vox in my wall does not hum. It listens. That is how the silence feels attentive, like a scribe with pen lifted above a margin, waiting for the word that completes the line. The tone from last night lingers as a line of warmth in my bones. When I finally rise, the warmth stands with me, patient as a hand under my elbow. The ledger on my table is open, though I remember closing it. The black book lies atop it, edges breathing a faint ember glow that does not light the room so much as persuade it to be less dark. The ash from chapter 6 still tastes like an old coin at the back of my tongue. I wet my lips and they taste of oil. A page turns again. I lean close. The ink shines in curves that are unquestionably mine, those long, apologetic strokes on the descenders, that cautious habit of spacing numbers as if they might quarrel if set too near. But the letters I am reading are not words I remember writing. They are a sentence I have never dared to think. Shaped in my hand. All that is recorded is remembered. All that is remembered lives. The room makes the smallest sound. My breath, catching. The paper warms beneath my fingers as if a creature asleep had rolled closer to the fire. The vox bears witness in its quiet, saying nothing. When the bells come, they do not toll. They rustle cloth on cloth. The hab block inhales. Doors open down the corridor in the same sequence they did yesterday. And the day before, the banners learn to move like the undersides of fish. I dress without thought. My hands find the case. The brass clasps give me their small, corrective bite. The ward beads kiss my hair on the way out, patient as rain. The shrine's banners hang without stirring. The air is expectant. A room before a speaker draws breath. The attendant is waiting, her black earband replaced with a crown of fine wires braided into her hair, red filaments that glint like veins seen through skin. She looks at me as a librarian, looks at a reader who has finally asked for the forbidden shelf and is now permitted. Archivist, she says. The syllables fit too well. I am a clerk. I begin, and the correction feels childish in my mouth. Not today. She steps aside. He asked for you. She means the priest, but there is no priest in the niche. The altar has changed again. The vox grill has broadened into a mouth that does not open, a closed seam breathing through itself. Where the priest once stood, there is a lectern grown from welded pipe, its surface set with a broad black volume that eats the light without reflection. The book is not the book I carried. It is that book grown to the size of a table, the leather stretched as if it had been watered and left in the sun. The corners of its covers are bound in rings, and the rings are fixed to the lectern in a way that remembers shackles but does not confess to them. The attendant gestures toward a side door I have not been permitted to pass. The archive, she says simply. He waits there. I follow her into a corridor I have counted from outside but never walked. The walls are plain, the sound is not. It is pages turning, near and far, above and below, a summer of leaves read by wind. The corridor widens into a hall whose air is warmer than the shrines and holds a smell like linen kept in cedar and then forgotten for a century. Books, shelves to the ceiling, built from crate wood and machine scrap. They bow under the weight of ledgers bound in every sort of binding we have ever had on this world. Ribbon and cord, buckled leather, twine, wire. Some are wrapped in cloth. Some are naked, their spine stitching a bright line of effort. Many are stamped with the old administratum sigil, half scraped away, like a saint's face eroded by prayerful thumbs. The nearest shelf holds folios I recognize by the angle of their corners. My hand goes out and finds one, a volume from a census, 3 summers before the banners changed, when the water rationing was at its worst, and the plague in the lower hives taught us the particular kindness of standing 2 steps away. I open it at random and find a page in my hand I did not write in that year. A page written yesterday. A page I would have sworn was in the black book on my table now. The letters are mine, but they are not in time. I close the folio. It thuds with the soft finality of a chest being shut. I place it back on the shelf and choose another. The same. The words are a memory that refuses to live in the year that claimed it. All hands, the attendant says softly, as if afraid to raise the dust. A single hand in many days. That is how the archive breathes. You kept everything, I murmur, and the wrongness of the sentence is the truest thing about it. I do not mean you. I mean we. And not even that, not even we in the way a hunger line is we, or a congregation. The archive itself kept everything and keeps keeping. She leads me past the shelves to a table in the center of the hall. On the table sits the black book I carried yesterday, my book, the bone-white quill laid across it, like an instrument resting between movements. It looks smaller than it did when it first frightened me. The light from the lamp above it is steady and disinterested. It does not tremble, and so my hands do. I sit. The chair is the kind used in the annex. Straight, practical. The wood polished by generations of tired spines. The attendant places her fingertips on the table's edge and does not move them, as if to assure the table of her presence the way a midwife keeps contact with a laboring woman between contractions. Read, she says. I open the black book. The pages are still night. The night holds writing. I can only see when I tilt the sheet to find the angle where the lines take light and yield it back. The first page I meet looks like a map I recognize in it, the districts I have walked since childhood, column 17 with its spine of stairs, column 19 where the pipe workers batch their laughter to share it along with their nicotine, the sump lines, the slag fall, the tram cuts that tremble when the lifts pass. But the map is only an outline, the way a face seen in a candle's reflection is only an outline. Within it are coordinates, my columns stitched together by the little marks I believed were inventory. Dots for fragile, curves for song, dashes for suitable. They draw a web like a saint's aureole. In the margins, symbols I did not write complete the lace. The next page is not a map, it is a hymn. The words are not imperial. Some look like ours if our hand had been forced to confess an alphabet beyond its schooling. The stanzas lengthen and shrink according to a logic I can feel under my sternum. Inhale, hold, exhale. The refrain is a sentence the book has already taught me. Order is breath. Breath is life. You are my lungs. Page after page, the archive turns itself. Not the book in my lap, this one waits still for my choice, but the room's books, the stacked spines around me. They whisper when their pages lift. A draft passes, and the whisper becomes a low chant. My own book warms, jealous, and the night ink shines as if wet, though the air is dry. In the shine, I read the simplest line in the hall, the names. It is not the list I wrote, not a ladder, not a column. It is a rope. The rope runs through the city and through time. It loops and ties. It sinks into ground, comes up through floors, threads through tracheas, passes in and out of 1,000 mouths as air. I see where my marks, my careful marks, anchor it to gatehouses and grind rooms and hab doors, where the rope bites into wood and says, "Here." The attendant draws a breath that is not surprise. It is a ritual inhalation, a child filling her chest for the old prayer. Now you see. I see, I say. Because the word has the right size. It was never a census. It was a litany, she says, where the old faith would have said a litany of saints, and where this faith says something like a litany of lungs. Every name placed just so, every sign laid in its place, every offering given and given again. You wrote the hive into chorus. The thought makes me swallow the way tears make a man swallow when there is no room on his face for them. I have done an enormous, beautiful thing. It is not pious to love one's work, but it would be a sin not to know when a ledger has been more than ledger. The relief that comes is impolite in the presence of such a patient room. It wants to grin like a boy at his first truly straight column of figures. You are not afraid, she says, with curiosity so pure it does not injure the moment. I have wanted this, I confess. The words are not mine until they are spoken. Once spoken, they are a relief. Not this shape, but this obedience, this assurance that keeping was loving. She lowers her eyes, and when she raises them, there is a wet brightness to them. Not tears, no. We used ours in the ash, but the shine of something like health. Then you are the archivist. That is what an archivist is. Love of order, large enough to give it breath. I touch the book's margin. The page moves under my finger the way skin moves when someone laughs silently. The sheet beneath lifts its corner and waits. It is not coy. It is patient. It is a patient that has learned I will eventually ask the right question and is spending its strength only where needed. What remains, I ask, if the litany is complete? Completion is a circle, the attendant says. You must close it. Her hand leaves the table for the first time and settles beside the bone quill. There is a final column you have not used. The bottom of the page shows it, a comb of tiny empty boxes with no headword. I have made the mark that has no spoken name only once, and it remembered me with warmth like bread. Now the boxes wait. A line of small mouths closed in trust. The vox speaks not from the wall, or from the shrine behind us, but from the spines. It is a breath passed through 1,000 throats of leather and paper. The sound rides the old string in my bones and plucks it, not hard. Enough to name the pitch. Brother, I bow my head, though there is no man to reverence. The books breathe again, 1,000 pages lifting like a chest. You have written them into breath. Write yourself. For a moment, my hand will not accept this instruction. It tenses on the quill the way a fist tightens before placing a coin into a cup. The old hunger in me, hunger for being set apart, for being the one who writes, not the one written, tightens and then loosens like a muscle that has remembered it can relax. I dip the quill. There is no bottle. There is only the tip, already wet with a red that is not blood because it does not smell like iron. It smells like a bell after ringing. My name, I say aloud, so that the hall will remember I was glad to say it. I write it slowly into the first empty box. The ink sinks as if the paper had been thirsty for this one word longer than it had been, thirsty for all the others. The line brightens, a thread pulled through and tied. Under the name, space for a line. The quill does not ask. It already knows the sentence to be written. It is the sentence the black book taught me in the dark. All that is recorded is remembered. All that is remembered lives. The room changes. Not much. A tremor passes through the shelves like a shiver that begins in a dream and ends with the sleeper drawing the blanket to his chin. The lamp brightens and then returns to its disinterest. The pages of the books all over the hall lift and settle together on some internal cue, 1,000 bodies turning in the same direction and then finding they are comfortable after all. Far above us, a cable hums and is still. The air lifts and sets down a breath. I should be afraid that I have been written, that I am not the hand now but the word. But what I feel is rest, the kind that makes a man generous with small things he used to hoard. The attendant's fingers brush the margin near mine. Listen, she says. I listen. The room is quiet. The quiet is not empty. It is a fullness placed where noise used to go. In the quiet, the voice that is not a single mouth speaks as if from behind my ear. The archive wakes when the last entry is the first confession. You have closed the circle. There is no division. I hear, I say. Then you are done, the attendant murmurs. An archivist does not own what he keeps. He inhabits it. The city will breathe you as you breathed it. I stand. My knees argue and then give in, like old men who refuse almost everything but do not refuse a blessing. I close the book, and the black is warm through the cover. I rest my hand on it as one rests a hand on a brow. On the way out, I touch the corner of a shelf with the knuckle I used to crack against door frames in childish games. The shelf hums back a note so soft it might be memory. In the shrine niche, the lectern sits with the huge book chained to it, and the seam of the vox mouth is still shut. I do not lift the banner to seek the face I did not see. The attendant remains behind. The crown of red wire in her hair throws a last, low gleam across the page before she turns it. In the corridor, citizens pass with quiet faces. The ward beads in their doorframes are gone. In their place hang small plates cut from scrap, each scratched with a mark I know how to draw with my eyes closed. Children skip. An old woman rubs her wrists with oil. Farron walks past me with his left hand open, palm forward. He grins without teeth, ashamed of joy, proud of it. At home, the vox in the wall wakes enough to breathe with me. I set the case down on the table and do not open it. The little aquila at my collar gives me the prickle of old thread under fingertip. It no longer resembles wings so much as a seam sewn shut. I sit. I cross myself. The emperor protects, I say, and I do not add the new adverbs or the old defense clauses. The sentence is sufficient, like a crib that holds a sleeping child well. The vox listens. I am grateful for that. Listening is how a book holds a hand. I blow out the candle and the room grows gentle. When I lie down, the warmth line in my bones widens into a calm. For the first time since the banners changed, I do not dream of numbers in rows. I dream of a page with no margins and no center, a page on which a breath moving across is enough to be called a word. The hive breathes. I breathe. Between us, there is no seam I can feel. The day holds like a note that refuses to decay. I sit with the book open to its last line, the ink thinly shining, and listen to the hive remember how to be ordinary. It is an art, ordinariness more fragile than ritual, more easily dropped. Feet, relearned scuff and shuffle. Doors, relearn latch and unlatch. Water in the pipes remembers how to chatter. The banners do not move. Their stitched mouths keep their counsel as if the seam, once tempted to open, found peace in restraint. I copy the sentence again, slow, patient script that cares about each loop and cross. The emperor protects. I think he only listens. The page accepts the words as a basin accepts water. The pool does not ripple. I am grateful for that. Not every truth needs to show itself dramatic. A child appears in the shrine's mouth. It is the same girl who loved to press her ear to grills. She stands with her hands behind her back, as if concealing some harmless theft, an apple, a ribbon, a smooth stone. When she steps forward, I see what she carries. A stub of candle cupped in both palms. It has not been lit. The wax bears a thumbprint, deep and honest. "Brother," she says. I incline my head, the title no longer startling. "You came to listen?" She considers, then shakes her head. "To rest." Her voice is solemn with a child's resolution. The songs have gone home. I lift the candle from her hands and set it on the lectern beside the black book. "Would you like to leave it? It is not mine now," she says, relieved. Then she leans toward the vox grill, which is warm, and whispers not a prayer, not words I can catch, but the hushed confidences children share with sleeping animals. The grill drinks every syllable. She smiles, satisfied. and departs with the lightness of someone who has given away a heavy thing. For a while I copy records that do not need copying. Names re-enter the page, the way day re-enters a room closed all night, without force, by accumulation. Each letter makes its small permission. I am not adding to the archive so much as reminding my hands of their proper weight. Work, modest, careful work, is an apology one offers to a day that has done too much. Farron arrives, left hand fully open now, as if remembering the grammar of its fingers. He does not approach the lectern. He stands by the door as a man stands by a coffin he does not need to see again, to know what it holds respect, yes, and also a boundary recognized without envy. "The lifts run true," he says, pleased and shy. No shudder. The breath settled into the cables. I answer, and the sentence is not metaphor so much as a report. He nods. "I did not dream last night," he adds, almost embarrassed. "Nor did I tell him, and we are both comforted that our emptiness matches." He leaves with the slow, unafraid pace of a man who has nothing to keep from falling. Noon passes without bells. The shrine fills and empties the way a tide touches a shore. A woman who leaves a folded strip of cloth where the censer once swung. A pair of brothers who carry a ledger from their small workshop and ask if the archive will keep it with the others. It will. I show them the shelf, and they place it as if laying a sleeping child among cousins. An old priest in a robe reverted to its uncolored fabric, who sits and says nothing, and then rises and says nothing, and that, too, is a complete act. The attendant does not return. Where she once stood, a line of dust records the absent body in pale. I run a finger through that line and feel nothing but grit. If she is gone, it is not an unkindness. Some threads are woven past the place we can see and have no duty to be visible again. Afternoon settles. Shadow climbs the banners part way and stops, like water that has found its level. I take the small jobs the shrine still knows, tighten a bolt whose head has started to turn lazy, dust the ledge where ash tends to collect in corners, and twist the binding on a folio whose cord frayed from grateful handling. The hive breathes around me. I begin to hear small kinds of laughter, the sort that lives low in the throat and does not declare itself. It does me more good than a sermon. Toward evening, the vox in my wall stirs just a breath, enough to propagate the room's quiet with a companion quiet of its own. I set the ledger aside and rise to stand before the grill. The warmth there clearly comes from nothing my hands can repair. It is the warmth of use, of attention returned. I have nothing left to confess, I say. And the sentence does not boast. It is inventory. The box, at the end of the line, unremarkably ticked. The vox does not speak, it listens. In that listening, I hear a shape of response, the kind of assent made by a chair that creaks when a body leaves it, not in complaint, but in recognition of a weight briefly shared. I take the empty candle from the lectern and carry it home. On my table, I set it next to my case. The ward beads in the doorway are gone now, replaced by a rectangle of scrap metal scratched with a small curve and dot. When I touch the marks, heat stirs under the skin of the metal as if the sign has its own blood. At dusk, the city performs its old trick of turning red, as if illuminated from within. The smoke by the high vents glows and then cools. I walk once around my block. The habitual arguments of market neighbors resume in miniature, a haggling over a broken gear, a debate about whether the stew is better tonight or last night, each complaint rehearsed and cherished. Two acolytes of the old faith, brave in their stubbornness, tie a ribbon on a railing. 3 children untie it and retie it higher, laughing. The acolytes accept this as liturgy. The world is not improved, it is arranged. Back at the shrine, I write a final page that is not final. It is a blank with a title, a box with the word "kept" scratched gently in the corner, as if I were teaching a timid student to sign his name. I date it without the new eras and without the old saints, only the position of the sun behind smoke, only the count of breath since morning. The paper does not protest my imprecision. Not everything true needs a calendar. Night arrives. In the archive, the lamp goes out, and the afterimage floats in my eyes, a square of soft gold that fades without grief. The horn in the hall of offering does not glow. It remembers how to be metal without miracle. The bowls of ash and oil sit, quiet seas reflecting no light, patient for tomorrow's hands. Before I leave, I lay my palm on the black book. It does not thrum. Rather, it receives, the way a good roof receives rain without comment, designed for the weight. I have spent my life fearing that I was not built to bear what came. Now I know I was built to keep. And that keeping is not gripping. It is attention without demand. I carry that knowledge home like a bowl with both hands. In the room, I extinguish the lumen with a twist. The dark is kind. The window shows smoke and a square of a neighbor's light and nothing more. I sit, because sitting is a way to listen with the spine. The vox warms my cheek. It does not need to tell me anything. If it asked, "What do you hear?" I would answer, "You're listening," and that would be true, and it would be enough. The opening hook of my confession returns not as dread, but as recognition. I wake to the sound of the vox reciting the Emperor's prayer. The words were wrong then. They are not right now, either. They are something else. A third path between error and precision. They are mine as much as anyone's. I think of my mother's kitchen, the winter mornings, when breath made ghosts and bread gave back heat. The old prayer said, not because it changed the day, but because it named it. I think of the annex with its neat rows of men and women bent over forms that promised fairness if not comfort. I think of the banners lifting and showing nothing but their stitched mouths. I think of the child's unlit candle, thumbprint still visible, and the way she gave it away without sorrow. I think of the countless names I wrote, each a small, stubborn lamp held up to the wind. The room grows very quiet. I do not kneel. I do not stand. I do not cross myself. I breathe, long and even, and the wall breathes with me. And between us, the listening grows so wide, I can place everything inside it. The warband's arrival, the priest's raptures, the archive's awakening, the careful resumption of haggling over stew. If the Emperor loves anything, I think it may be this: that breath learns to count, and when it tires of counting, it returns to being breath. I reach for the ledger one last time and write a line not meant for keeping, only for finishing the shape of the day. I have kept what I could. The rest keeps me. The ink dries. The room holds. The vox glows softly and dims. I blow out the candle the girl left, though it never was lit, and the darkness receives that too, with equal grace. I lay down. The machine that is the city turns over and sleeps without forgetting how to breathe. The Emperor protects. I think he only listens.